Trae. Come on, it's the day with Trae. With Trae. Come on, it's the day with Trae. With Trae. Come on, it's the day with Trae.
Pump it up, pump it up.
Trae.
Come on, come on.
With Trae.
Pump it up, pump it up.
It's the day with Trae.
This is the day to gain inspiration, to make a positive change in the nation. We're inviting you to partake in conversation, to raise your vibration. It's the day that we will all celebrate all of our peace that make this thing elevate. Watch the negative fade away, cause it's the day with Trae.
Grand Rising, everyone. Welcome to the Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. We want to welcome you to a fantastic Friday. Honestly, this is an information-filled Friday, and I'm really excited to have my guest joining me here today. We got our doctor in the building, Hehimetu Ra Enkamit Ph.D. He is here to shed some light on his book, Not in My Name, Reparations Now. Really excited to have him joining me all the way from the East Coast. And later on in the show, we got Charles Douglas in the building. He is the executive director of Common Power, and they are doing some phenomenal work to take their campaign, door knocking and canvassing, getting people out there and informed in terms of their vote. Common Power does some phenomenal work, so I'm glad he's joining me in the building as well. But of course, it is the top of the show. So this is where you join me by sharing this show with folks who you feel could benefit from the daily dose of dopeness we work to provide you here on the Day with Trae. And, you know, if you can't watch our show, you can always listen to us anywhere you find your favorite podcast, as well as TV. Go ahead and search for us on your favorite platform by searching for Converge Media Network and the Day with Trae. You'll find us wherever your favorite podcast platform is. There's so many of them. And I'm so grateful to our podcast team because we're on all of them. So go ahead and search for us and you'll find us there. Well, up next, we got Hehimetu Ra Enkamit in the building. We're going to be talking about Not in My Name, Reparations Now. Hi.
How you doing?
Peace.
How are y'all?
Fine, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for joining today, and for Priest Amen for being a great outlet for you today. Hehimetu Ra Enkamit, and Irwa also as a title for you. We're really excited to have you joining us today. This is a really special book, and I really want to get the theme down. Let's talk about this theme of Not in My Name, Reparations Now. Tell us more.
Okay, so the theme of the book is it's inspired influence. It's like what Brother Dick Gregory said. Like we have to cultivate the ability to select the people that we elect into office and then not continue to vote for the lesser of two evils. So until a few days ago, we had the choice of a convicted felon and an enabler of genocide and a breaker of community and family values in the Black community. Now we're asked to choose between a convicted felon and a prosecutor who has made a career on Black lives. As Brother Malcolm said, we need to establish our own voting block to select the persons that we vote for. But we also have to come up with the qualifications for the candidates that we select. We need to cultivate. The book is talking and discusses and advocates the cultivation of people for office following an African traditional leadership model, like the current African traditional leadership model that's practiced in Accra and in Ghana today. And it's described on pages 12 and 13 of the book, The Divine Kingship. And this is a question that the Asante deal with, and it deals with the training and the development of the character of the potential ruler or the potential Asante ruler, and that is heavily scrutinized and developed before they are given the political appointments. The book further indicates that the royals of the Asante stool, they undergo intense political and moral training before they are appointed to rule in their political office. And so this points out that the training system that we see in the West African spiritual in the West African systems can be used as a model in the African diaspora for our political leaders to copy, since it prepares people to serve other people, to serve their subjects with humility, honesty, and respect, which is something that we don't normally see or is not used to in the Western political system. And
Yeah.
mhm. And then
No,
there's
no, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, if
Oh,
there's more, I want to hear it.
okay. Yeah, so and then the making sure that the political appointments use all of their energy for the social economic advancement of their area, of their people, of who the place in which they come from. And then this should be the leadership criteria. If this leadership criteria of Asante is accepted by others, it can move our communities forward. In ways in which that we can make sure that our political appointees are accountable to the communities from which they come from.
Well, that is extremely necessary, right? And we talk about making sure voters are informed, but so much of it is about how, any one candidate is really going to serve them best. And I think a lot of people are still trying to figure out, especially newer and young voters, trying to figure that out. And folks that have their own lived experience or maybe be in survival mode and really haven't had the opportunity to start exploring what that looks like for them. Well, tell us a little bit more about this title and what was the impetus to write this book?
Well, so the book was written in three sections. The first section, the title, not in my name, it's the song, which was a piece that was a compilation of Dr. Orwell's thoughts since the beginning of the current genocidal assault of the people on Palestine. The first submission was the song. We're going to play a song in a moment, that was written on November 3rd, 2023, and it was entitled Palestine, Peace, Not Apartheid. The title was taken actually from President Jimmy Carter's book by the same name, Palestine, Peace, Not Apartheid. The song, the situation that was occurring within Palestine influenced the writing of the song.
Understandable. The two kind of connect to the theme of the book because we're also talking about a historical context when it comes to reparations now, correct? And we see that there are different themes and correlations that exist in terms of the years, when dealing with all of the issues in Palestine and some of the things that we're dealing with here on American soil, too, correct?
That's correct. The book is actually you know, looking at how our what is the how is the what's one of the better ways, or what's another way in which our tax dollars can be used. That's one thing that's addressed in the book, one theme that's addressed in the book. We can get a little later on in the conversation, we can go over looking at some of the statistics related to what type of support is given and how we are actually a part of and responsible for some of the conditions that are occurring within that region. And so if I am correct in my interpretation of Dr. Orwell's thoughts, it's just thinking about how we are also, in tandem with the United States through the use of our tax dollars for helping to create the conditions that the Palestinian people are going through.
Yeah, and so that really brings me to my next question around, what do reparations look like? I mean, how do we, what kind of support systems are we talking about, and how does the book explore that theme and that topic?
Well, what the book really kind of goes through when it answers this question is like how, like the process of setting. It discusses the process of setting up, the reparations movement, or the reparations effort, right? So the process is first establishing a commission, discussing how a commission has to be established that is based on an official apology from the U.S. government
Okay, go ahead.
for the yeah, from the U.S. government from the harms that was committed against people of African descent, um, which becomes highlighted in several, which becomes highlighted in several demands in the text. And then what's also discussed is how these and the importance that these demands has to come from the two branches of government. Like we have to impress the importance on the executive and the legislative branch, which are both controlled by Democrats and Republicans, about the importance of this endeavor. But as of yet, like neither of whom have initiated the process.
Wow.
And so when it comes to this situation, Malcolm X, thinking about what Malcolm X said, over half a century ago, and then it still applies to today. The specific thing which pertains to the idea of our supporting a political party is still spot on. This particular phrase that he said, right? And then Dr. Enkamit said it took him a long time to grasp this truth, and then he sums it up like this: the Republican Party are like political wolves, right? And then the Democratic Party, they're more like foxes, right? Both the fox and the wolf are part of the canine family. So you can either vote for, which is a dog. So you can either vote for a Republican dog or a Democratic dog, but it doesn't matter whichever one you vote for, because regardless of who the winner is, you're still in the dog's house.
Mm.
And so that's a phrase in which Malcolm X said over 50 years ago. And in short, neither party neither party will guarantee a vote unless they're willing to meet a certain criteria.
Yeah, that
So
brings me to the demands here, because I know we want to explore some of those demands that are in the book in terms of, hey, you get my vote when you meet these things. Tell us a little bit more about some of those demands.
okay, there's several different demands that were discussed in the book. One of the demands is that there has to be the issue of an official apology on behalf of the United States of America for its support in the ongoing genocide that's occurring in Palestine. And there has to be an agreement to stop supplying Israel with the munitions to continue to wage war on the Palestinian people.
Yeah, and then there's something specific too. I think about demands like 3 and 4 as well that really play into
Right.
this idea. Tell us more.
Right. So in discussing, okay, so further on demand three is the enforcement of the law to protect the Congo and to lift U.S. sanctions on Zimbabwe. So so there was a survey about the wrongs committed by Black people worldwide, and then there's no African diaspora, African group who have suffered more than the Congolese. Historically, we have over 10 million Congolese that were murdered by King Leopold of Belgium, and another 10 million have been killed by the Rwandan and Ugandan backed forces. And this is all to help destabilize the Congo. And in that political destabilization of the nation, it makes it easier to steal the mineral wealth of the people, the coltan, the cobalt, the gold, all of these minerals necessary to push forward this green economy that we're experiencing over here in America. And even though by law the US is supposed to sanction the perpetrators, what does our Congress do but look the other way? And Zimbabwe is sanctioned because they dared. They dared to return land stolen by the settlers to indigenous Zimbabweans, right? So that's number three, the third demand. Number four, to make sure that the United States government does not interfere in any way with the movement of any African country which chooses to break away from its neo-colonial relationships, right? This is something that we're experiencing today, even when we look at what's going on with certain forces being used to go into other countries in order to destabilize that country, even to this day, right now, a couple of weeks ago. So, because of the historical wrongs committed by the colonizers of Africa, especially France, there have been several military takeovers of African countries, including Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, and other countries. After the military took over these countries, ECOWAS, in violation of their charter, threatened Niger with a military assault, right, to return the puppet president to power. Now, why Niger and not Burkina Faso? Niger has a lot of uranium that France was paying for. They were paying Niger 80 cents per kilo from France for its uranium. One out of every three lights in France is on because of the uranium from Niger. Plus, the U.S. had their largest drone manufacturing base in the world in the Niger region. In spite of those resources, Niger is the second poorest country in the world. Now, since kicking the French out and establishing their own independence and self determination, uh, Niger is now selling its uranium for over 200 euros instead of 80 cents, which we discussed before. Now it's 200 euros per kilo.
Mm.
So, coupled with the fact that Niger was being ripped off by the French, the Americans were supposed to be providing security from the jihadists who invaded Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. And the U.S.-led NATO killed Gaddafi. But since Mali and these countries have extended and formed their own alliance, they've been winning the battles against the jihadists. So, so those are, to answer your questions. That's 3 and 4 right there for you.
Well, these demands also paint such a larger picture for us. And really, this book is, encouraging folks to understand how they wield the power of their vote, right? And utilizing it as a vehicle to demand certain things of those who are looking to lead us in governmental positions. And I'm so grateful that y'all have given some time to shed some light on this phenomenal work. Of course, if folks out there are trying to figure out how they get the book, I want to leave you with making sure folks know exactly how to get this book in their hands so that they can understand how to utilize that power for good. Please share that information for the audience.
Okay. Give me one moment here. Go to Enkamit, ENKAMIT.com, and that is where you will be able to find and get the book.
Wow. Thank you both so much. Irwa, a pleasure to have you here on the Day with Trae. And Priest Amin, thank you so much for facilitating the information coming from Dr. Irwa Hehimetu Ra Enkamit. Such a beautiful body of work, and we really appreciate you pouring out your efforts into this work because we all need to be informed. Thank y'all so much for joining me today.
Thank you for support.
Thank you for your support.
Thank y'all. I mean, wow, y'all, this is what I'm talking about when we say we got to be informed. We got to know how to utilize our collective power for the good. And up next, we got Charles Douglas, the executive director of Common Power, shedding some light on some of the work that's happening nationally around wielding that collective power for our good and for the benefit, especially when it comes to politics, because we know it's in a whirlwind right now. I'm so glad he's joining me up next. And after this, y'all don't want to miss it. Stay tuned. You're watching The Day with Trae.
Hey everybody, this is DJ OG1, co-founder of Portland's Hip Hop Week celebration, August 20th through the 26th, an entire week of celebrating the culture. And we have a special event called Hip Hop Wine and Chill, where we'll be celebrating and honoring Seattle's own Converge Media, Beza Gordon, and Amari Salisbury. Portland Hip Hop Week, August 20th through the 26th. For more information, log on to pdxhiphopweek.com.
Big Tobacco thinks they know everything. They think they know you, your community, the places you go, the way that you spend your time. They think they got you all figured out, down to a formula, a calculation based off of numbers of what they think they know. Show them they're wrong. Learn more at theythinktheyknowyou.org.
Africatown Plaza is our latest affordable housing development project. It's 126 units of affordable housing over community commercial space.
It's the first time in my career, and I've been doing this for 10 years, that I was able to design for people who look like me.
Africatown Plaza is a beacon of hope.
Africatown Plaza is a love letter to the community.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. Joining me right now is Charles with Common Power. Hi, Charles.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Well, it's amazing how this episode got shaped together, right? We were talking about the political sphere, and there's so much to uncover here. Just give us a little glimpse about what Common Power is all about and the work y'all are doing in this area.
Yeah, so we're born and raised in Seattle, Washington. We take volunteers from all over the country now, primarily in Seattle, and we send them all around the country to go knock on doors in states that people know better about national politics. So you're Georgia last year or two years ago for Raphael Warnock, and Texas and North Carolina and Michigan, everywhere that you read on the news where there's a big national race. Common Power is sending out volunteers.
It's phenomenal what y'all do, to be honest, because y'all work with a lot of folks who are kind of just entering their adulthood.
Yeah.
And the way that I've experienced Common Power has been like, wow, not only the name of Common Power makes sense, because I'm always talking about collective power. And there's something to be said about the collective wielding of power. What do you do with it once you harness it?
Yeah.
And so the fact that y'all are getting folks out there, knocking on doors, canvassing, says a lot, because it needs a personal touch. Tell us a bit about your entry into Common Power.
Sure.
And how you found yourself connected to this.
Yeah, so Common Power's very first community meeting was March 3rd, 2018. And I'd been working at Starbucks corporate. I was there for 13 years. I started as a barista. So I kind of climbed my way up, and I was in marketing and e-commerce. And 2016 happened. I don't know if y'all know what happened in 2016, but the world fell down in 2016. But that's when we all realized we had to do more. And I went there and I thought, this is a great start, but this is made up of a bunch of people who don't look like me. And it's Seattle. It's Seattle people who wanted to do this work. And Seattle's a pretty white city. So right out of the gate, I was like, if I'm going to be involved in this, we got to figure out two things. One of them is we need more people who look like me. It's got to represent all of Seattle if we're going to be this truly collective representative organization. And the second one is we have got to stop reacting to what they do on their side. We have got to be ready beforehand and not just going crazy when it's on fire. So Common Power is a couple things. One of them is we don't get ready, we stay ready. We're training people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, like y'all. We are constantly putting volunteers through this educational pathway that leads to action. The other one is in the name. The name Common Power comes from the belief that the most common power that we all should have, and we don't. The most common power we all should have is the power of our vote. We've got it pretty good here in Washington State, but in other states, especially in the South, with huge Black populations, massive disenfranchisement, we need to help make voting more of a common power there.
You know, so much of this is due to a wide variety of elements that we know exist, right? There are actual laws being put in place and policy and legislation that is, again, restricting the right for people to vote. It's
right.
Restricting access. It's making it more difficult to find where they send their ballot, where they drop it, how they vote. There's so much that's been involved in that area. And we've seen this historically as well. So the ideas of always being ready and being prepared is something that is necessary. How do y'all deal with those who are just apathetic to all of this? I mean, you know, I've been talking to young people, and to hear like they're just like, whatever, like my vote really doesn't matter here. This is always going to be a blue state, even in Washington. And I say, no, it does. It does matter, right? We talk about the Electoral College, and there's all the confusion there. How do y'all work folks through that?
So the biggest element that keeps us going every single year and activated and really on fire about voting is education. And the thing that we start with is an understanding that we did not land in the worst times that have been. Things have been worse for us, actually. People tend to believe that Trumpism is the beginning of something bad. And I understand that reproductive rights being taken away is a big, big deal. And also there are rooms and buildings that I can walk into today in Seattle, and you can too, that we couldn't in previous generations. So we have advanced. The key to that is understanding they fought for that generations before us, and they figured out how to fight against authoritarianism and win. And it takes a long time. So we go back and we study their methods. We understand the key to so many different things is that we came together as a coalition and worked across race and age difference. And that's what it's going to take for us to move forward. So that's a huge piece, is that I don't know if I'm going to say it right, but we didn't fall out of a coconut tree. You know what I mean? Right? Like, and we'll get to her in a minute, but like Kamala is saying, we exist in this broader context. And that's a huge deal. The responsibility of the vote, the understanding that people fought and bled and died just for the right to register to vote. Because initially that's what it was just registration. Mm-hmm. That is a part of our legacy, not just as people, but as Black people. That's part of our culture. Voting is a part of our culture. So we got to continue that.
It's really one of the things that I have understood and witnessed and experienced myself is the power of collectivism. Mm. And there's something to be said, I think, in equity work. I think there's always this phrase of like, there's more of us who want this than those of us who don't.
Amen.
And there's something special about that, because it always gives a glimmer of hope, something to look forward to, some optimism in this, that, when we look at the divisive nature of politics and the way it's gone, mm-hmm. especially in the last, 2 terms, we've really seen, I think, a big rise of it for so many of us who was like, whoa, this is our first time really experiencing this, right? Mm-hmm. Personally. But there's something to be said about there's more of us who want it than those who don't. How do y'all carry that message forward as you think about, wielding collective and common power mm-hmm. in a way that really can benefit all of us?
So I always tell the story, and I learned so much. I go out and I door knock myself. We send hundreds of people out to knock on doors every single year. And I always go out there to knock on doors too, because I learn about humanity. I learn about this country, and I learn about people who other folks think are on the other side. And I remember the story of knocking on a door, and I tell this all the time. And the person who answers the door, and I got this list, and it's like, okay, these are the people who are voting our way. And I knock on the door, and it's not that person. And they apologize. They were like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm voting for the other guy. I'm sorry. But I appreciate you doing this work. And this is in the Midwest somewhere. Another time when I was in Georgia knocking on doors in the suburbs, somebody was like, I'm on the other side, but do you need some water or anything? Somebody thanked me for knocking on doors, and they were on the other side. And it just blew my mind about how close we actually are together, how we've really been taught that we are divided into these 2 binaries. And it's really this like spectrum of beliefs of people who really want food and shelter and respect and work and love. And that talking to people on doors has reaffirmed my faith in humanity. And I always tell people, hey, listen, if you have lost your faith, come out with me. Come knock on doors, because I'll show you what America really is on these doors.
That's really special and intimate, right? Because mm-hmm. you're coming to people's homes where they're comfortable, where they're themselves.
That's right.
Where, they can throw out the veil that they may have to carry throughout the day. So there is something really special and pertinent about connecting with folks in that way. I got to ask about strategy, because clearly in the last week, right, I think there's some folks who are like, oh, thank goodness, right? Mm-hmm. Like we have Kamala now who, is vibrant, is ready, mm-hmm. Has gone through her first term as VP.
Is younger.
Is younger, right? Right. And represents a lot of hope for a lot of people. How does that shift or pivot in terms of y'all's approach?
Oh, it's huge. And somebody asked me the other day, like, hey, are we getting ahead of ourselves? Are we getting too excited? It's like, nah, we should be. And it's not just in who she is and what she represents or an idea. It's in facts. There's data. There's the polling data is showing that she's ahead in all these states just by being named. And then it's money. So look, if you don't believe anything else, the money talks. Her energy, her coalition, her status, she raised over $200 million in days. I think, did this happen Sunday? This is like a week ago from this taping. She really changed the landscape, and you could see it in the views, you could see it in the social media shares. The young folks are telling us that they're with this, and we didn't tell them. We weren't like, yo, y'all got to be down for Kamala. They told us. They told us on TikTok, and the donors told us on platforms like Act Blue. 800,000 different donors. I mean, and those are people who are donating $5 here. Volunteering is through the roof in states like Georgia and Florida. And Florida, where, we've written off Florida on the left in some ways nationally. So, I mean, this is a real thing. It's real. The excitement's real, and the results are going to be real as well. But we got to also help it to get there.
I really appreciate your optimism and your energy around it because you're in it. And, for me, it's been like trying to talk to people and just gauge where people are at because, there's so many who are like, it's just, I don't know. And I'm just still not sure. And we always end up going, but it's so important. You can't not do it. Right. And I have folks in my life who are like, what, but why? And it's an interesting conversation to have. So I really appreciate the work you're doing. And, it's necessary. You could probably say this in any given presidential election, but I think people being informed, especially when it comes to their local vote, is also important because we notice that so much is ran by the state government.
Yes.
And who is representing you at the state, county, city level that you can't count that out. Huge. How do y'all incorporate that in your approach?
Oh, that is whenever I run into somebody anywhere in the country who's like, I'm not down with voting, I always ask them about if they care about after school programs or if they care about what their nephews or cousins or whatever are getting taught in schools. You get to local things. It's like gun violence locally. It's safety. It's speed. It's like potholes and stuff. And you tell them who makes those decisions. It's your city council folks. It's your county people. And who care if you can't vote for the top of the ticket? If you don't give a dang about your senator or whatever, you care about who's on your school board. You care about whether or not they can teach Black history to your students or not. You care about who paves the roads, who fixes, things at the school. And those are different people. And now it's like a night and day conversation. That's how you turn that light bulb on, is you get people fired up about local elections. And then once they taste their power, that's the thing. The voting is the most common, is the most equal power. Every person gets one vote in America. It doesn't matter how educated you are, doesn't matter how much money you have, you get one vote. You are just as powerful as Elon freaking Musk when it comes to voting. So when they realize they can decide their community and the makeup of it and what kind of resources come in, that's when they go, oh, okay, well, what's next? What's the next election? Because I'm voting on that one. And maybe I will take a look at governor or state house or something like that. And so it's this incremental build. And then after a while, they're the ones out knocking on doors, getting out the vote.
This is beautiful work, Charles. Thank you so much for joining me. Of course, if folks are looking to tap in, learn more, volunteer, support, look right there. Let them know how they do it.
Go to commonpower.org, and it's super easy. Just click on volunteer, and all the ways right here. I'm looking at the wrong place. Need you to go to commonpower.org and click on volunteer. Everything you need is there. We've actually got an event coming up on August 3rd. That's an in-person event at Mohi, and you can come and just try us out. We make it easy. I think Common Power is the place where you don't have to figure it out. We will do all the planning for you, and coming out and knocking on doors with me and other folks at Common Power all around the country is super easy. Let's go. Let's do it.
Charles, I really appreciate this.
Thank you for having me.
This time right now is something special and different, and also it's wrought with a lot of different things for a lot of different folks. So thank you so much for the work you're doing, and thanks for joining me today.
Yes, anytime.
Absolutely. Great work.
Thank you.
Y'all, this is what I'm talking about here. Today, we got some glimpses of what it looks like for us to demand things for our vote, for us to be energized about what's out there and ready for us to partake in. I get to wrap up all of this amazingness right after this short break. Stay tuned. You're watching The Day with Trae.
Seattle really is just a big neighborhood. It was a place for us to grow.
We all have a gift of some sort. It's just my vision of what I see.
Theater allows you to hit harder and be more. There's a sense of hope that your story will survive longer than you will.
Stream on the Cascade PBS app or watch live. Fridays at 8:50 p.m. on Cascade PBS. Learn more at blackartslegacies.com.
Disenrollment is a situation whereby people whose birthright to be indigenous is being stolen from them by politicians that have been elected to lead.
Today, the latest or last chapter of the saga concerns the threatened physical ejectment of as many as 21 Nooksack families from their homes.
I think it come about by hatred for our family. That's what it's all about.
Our bloodline is still here. You know, they can't get rid of us.
You on my mind a lot. Don't need no time watch. I don't know how I got you in my pocket spot. Yeah, that's babe, need you every day. You seem like the barging down. Got my heart no barging in. From the bed to the floor to the couch. Might wake the neighbors up. Break you in and break you out. In the end, we gon' make a child. Then we gon' hit the show. Part 2, we don't need no pause. Misty, we gon' get clips. Don't need a power slide.
Copy my steal. Face the fact that. Copy my steal. Face the fact that.
Hello, welcome to Elite Insights with Carlos Imani. We're looking to offer an in-depth look at event production industry through the lens of client experiences and joint successes. The podcast will emphasize guest interviews, focusing on client, discussing their fields, and reflecting on their collaboration with Elite Collective. Again, you're with Elite Insights. Carlos Imani here. I'll see you guys in a few.
Welcome back, everyone, to The Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. I just want to thank my guest, Dr. Urwa Hehimetu Ra Enkamit for joining me today. And of course, Charles Douglas for joining me with Common Power. You know, it's beautiful because we learn so much when we actually try to learn. And that's what's beautiful, right? Picking up the book, Not in My Name, Reparations Now, gives some amazing insight into how historically, our dollars have been used in other ways and what we can do about shifting that money into things that we care about. And clearly the work of Common Power is waking us up and making sure we are informed. We know what's out there. We know what the power of our collective nature can be and what it looks like. And there is something that's going on right now in our nation, and it would be remiss of me not to address that when we're talking about dealing with these powers that be here. There's a shift always happening, probably every presidential election, where we have the opportunity to make some direct choices that are going to be reflected in our federal government as well as our local governments. And it's important that we be engaged in all of the sectors, because the truth of the matter is, Charles said something that makes sense here, right? We all have that one vote, right? And we know there are some that don't. We know that too. And there's a lot of work that's happening in the reentry space to really change that, because we should all be able to say who we want to be leading us. And I encourage you, don't just be inspired by my guests here today. Be encouraged, be ignited, figure out how you want to wield your common power today. Thanks so much for joining me this week, y'all. And I'm so excited to be back with you next week. Until then, on Monday at 11 a.m., y'all. Peace. Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents.
Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.